Well, we got Ferrises all around us on this side. Sylvanus Ferris is this draped off obelisk. You see how this is a cut-off obelisk with draped? That's another symbol of mourning. They used to drape houses with black crepe. Maybe you've seen a picture of Lincoln's house in Springfield where crepe is all over the place, and this draped is a symbol of mourning. And you'll find other draped objects here. There'll be something that'll look like a sarcophagus that is draped, and also, so you'll see the drapery motif. Anyway, Sylvanus Ferris, he's the progenitor of all these Ferrises who came out here, and he lived in town, even though he owned farmland. He lived on the block just to the east of the Knox County Courthouse, so he was close to the college, and he'd been a successful dairy farmer, cheese maker. And this is how he'd made his money, in the dairy business with cheese. And so all of his adult children, except for one, moved out here, and I forget the number, but it's a considerable number. And he had enough money that he bought each of them anywhere from a quarter section, 80 acres, quarter section. I don't know how they figured out in the family who was getting what, but anyway, he made sure that all of them had farmland here. And that's how our Ferris wheel inventor happened to be born on a farm just right outside of Galesburg. Yep. So we'll see the name Ferris. Now here's Nathan Olmsted Ferris. He's an interesting guy. Supposedly he's the one who started raising popcorn, went to England and introduced popcorn to the Queen and so forth. And he was just kind of an innovator. Brought Timothy hay here, where it was just prairie grass hay before. Probably had to do with bringing the Osage orange from farther southwest that made hedgerows for natural fence. And then the gold rush came along. Naturally, he's a guy who's involved in everything new. And he's out there. Well, unfortunately, he died and is actually buried at Weaverville, California. He died in the California Gold Rush, 1850. And so this is actually what we call a cenotaph. When you have a monument for someone who's not actually buried here, it's called a cenotaph.
So then is that paid for by members of the Ferris family?
Oh, yes.
Galesburg?
Well, they did, There are some descendants still in the area around Knox County. Ron Peck's a friend of mine. He's a descendant of the Ferris family. Yeah. But they got a lot of farmland, and they were wealthy and could do that for all their children. Gave them all, anywhere from 80 to 160 acres. And the Ferris wheel guy, he's born just southwest edge. He was born on a farm outside of Galesburg, but it's called Galesburg. It's in Galesburg Township. They're part of the Galesburg founding colony and so forth. And the Ferris wheel guy, of course, he's George Washington Ferris.
Yes.
George Washington Gale Ferris, GWG Ferris Jr. So yeah, his father was also named after Reverend Gale. So yeah, the Ferris family and the Gale family, and really, if you want to look at it that way, there wouldn't be a Knox College and there wouldn't be a Galesburg if it hadn't been for the Ferris family. But the Ferrises were admirers of Gale, and they were supposedly the ones who suggested it be called Galesburg.
But they had the capital, the Gale.
They had the money, yeah, they had a lot of money. And these were Presbyterians and Congregationalists, and you'd think they would get along, but they had trouble.
That was what I was going to ask. Weren't the Ferrises Presbyterians?
They were, and Gale, yeah, they were the ones that held up the biggest component of the Presbyterian portion of Galesburg. Yeah.
Gale was the minister at Congregation. Was he also Presbyterian?
No, Gale was a Presbyterian, and then Old First Church was going to be a church everybody could attend. You could, upon joining, profess your preference of religion, and they were all going to work together in one church, and that didn't last very long. Yeah. And Presbyterians actually left first, so then became more of a congregational church and remained more of a congregational church. Old First Church merged with First Congregational, which was later called Beecher Chapel, over by Whiting Hall. And when they decided to, Knox would take over First Congregational, and it would become Beecher Hall in memory of Edward Beecher, a brother of Harriet Beecher Stowe, who was here. And then the old first church was already deteriorating badly. And so it was torn down. And on that site, then Central Congregational Church was built with the unification of the two in town. But oddly enough, there must not have been total harmony about that, because right away, East Main Street Congregational pops up, and a church over in my neighborhood, Knox and Day, is Congregational, and it pops up. So not everybody, and not every Congregationalist in town was in agreement about this, because two other Congregational churches formed right away.